Gently close your eyes. Do deep breathing. We'll chant Om once together. Synchronize the chanting of Om with your exhalation. Breathe in. सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। Gently open your eyes. We'll chant from verses 68 to 72 of chapter 2. तस्माद्यस्य महाबाहो
तस्माद्यस्य महाबाहो
निगृहीतानि सर्वशः
निगृहीतानि सर्वशः
इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेभ्यः
इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेभ्यः
तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता
तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता
या निशा सर्वभूतानां
या निशा सर्वभूतानां
तस्यां जागर्ति संयमी
तस्यां जागर्ति संयमी
यस्यां जाग्रति भूतानि
यस्यां जागृति भूतानि
सा निशा पश्यतो मुनेः
सा निशा पश्यतो मुनेः
आपूर्यमाणमचलप्रतिष्ठम्
आपूर्यमाणमचलप्रतिष्ठम्
समुद्रमापः प्रविशन्ति यद्वत्
समुद्रमापः प्रविशन्ति यद्वत्
तद्वत् कामायं प्रविशन्ति सर्वे
तद्वत् कामायं प्रविशन्ति सर्वे
स शान्तिमाप्नोति न कामकामी
स शान्तिमाप्नोति न कामकामी
विहाय कामान् यः सर्वान्
विहाय कामान्यः सर्वान्
पुमांश्चरति निःस्पृहः
पुमांश्चरति निःस्पृहः
निर्ममो निरहङ्कारः
निर्ममो निरहङ्कारः
sashantimadhigacchati
सशान्तिमधिगच्छति
esha brahmi sthiti partha
एषा ब्राह्मी स्थितिः पार्थ
nainam prapya vimuhyati
नैनां प्राप्य विमुह्यति
स्थित्वा स्यामन्तकालेऽपि
स्थित्वा स्यामन्तकालेऽपि
ब्रह्मनिर्वाणमृच्छति
ब्रह्मनिर्वाणमृच्छति
Hari Om, and a very good day to all of you. So we have been seeing the different facets of a Sthita Prajna. So when we say Sthita Prajna, it literally means a person who is established in the wisdom, a person who has got enlightened. So in the yogic approach, we lay a lot of emphasis on personalization. There is nothing to be achieved from outside. It is the inner transformation which he is talking about. So there are two words he is using. One is Sthita Prajna. It's a combination of two words, Sthita and Prajna. This is one phrase. On the other hand, here in this verse, he is using another phrase called Kama-kami. Kama-kami means one who is a slave to the desires. One who desires the various objects in a slavish way. So, as I was explaining to you last week, you have to draw a line. This is a scale, and you place Kama-kami on the leftmost point, and you place Sthita Prajna at the rightmost point. So this is the journey. You have to move from a Kama-kami to a Sthita Prajna. So in spirituality, there are no absolutes. See, it is not only in spirituality, in life itself, everything is not black and white in absolute terms. See, the moment we say something is the best, it is always in comparison with something else. If I were to ask you what is good, now you cannot really define it in absolute terms. Any absolute term, when we use any absolute term, actually it means nothing. Our intellect cannot understand that. Now when we talk of the infinite, no doubt in the scriptures they have used a lot of absolute terms. The very word infinite itself is an absolute term. So anything which is absolute cannot be conceived by the human intellect. That is why if you merely stop with that, but if you just merely study the nature of infinite in absolute terms and leave it at that, it will really not help you. Like some people say, God is infinitely merciful, God is infinite love. Everything which is being said is right, but if you stop with that, there is no sadhana for you, because the word infinite cannot be understood. then how can you understand what is infinite love, what is infinite mercy? It is not possible. So, in order to make it useful as a sadhana, what these great masters have done here is they have taken an individual, and when the individual gets enlightened, what happens to that person? What happens to the person internally? When he contacts the sense objects, what is his state? When he feels emotions, what is his state? When he contacts the world, when he transacts with the world, how does he do it? So all these various facets, which are nothing but expressions of enlightenment, have been captured. This is much easier to relate to, because unless you relate to these concepts personally, it will not become a sadhana for you. As I've mentioned earlier, see, when we say concept, it shouldn't be a mere intellectual concept. Then you will not be able to practice anything. So the masters made a thorough analysis of what a normal person, ordinary person, experiences today. So what is it that you experience? You experience sense enjoyments, number one. You experience various emotions, number two. You experience desires. You have a lot of desires, and a desire means a flow of thought to get some object. So that is the object of desire. So you have various desires pertaining to the body, desires pertaining to the mind. Then you have intellectual desires. So these are all the various things which you are experiencing today. So when a person gets enlightened, which means he or she becomes one with the infinite, the consciousness of that individual becomes one with the infinite. It expands and becomes one with the infinite, like the drop of ocean realizing its vastness as an ocean, as the full ocean. When that happens, now how does that person experience all these things? This is the very theme of a Sthita Prajna. This is very easy for you to relate to. See, you should remember one thing. In communication, when you talk in terms of the other person's interests, then you will be able to communicate effectively. What is the idea of communicating? The other person should get a particular message of yours. And if that person is interested in something and you're talking in terms of something else, now that will not interest that person. So the greatest challenge with these masters are facing is to give out the experience of the infinite. It's not possible. If the question is asked, what is infinite, what is God, who is God, how can you explain? It is really not possible in words, because every word is finite. So the moment we use the words, when we use words like infinite, and even when we say there are no limits, limitless, and all this, we are actually not defining God clearly. We are only we are leaving it in the air. When it said infinite, exactly what is infinite? We don't know. What is limitless? We are only saying limitless means no limits. Is it possible to even conceive that or understand that. No. So what the approach which they have taken is a very practical approach. This is something which you can absorb, this principle. You should absorb and start applying it in your life. That is this wonderful principle of communication. They are seeing what are the interests of an average human being. An average human being, what is he or she interested in? What are you preoccupied with? Right from morning till night, not just one day, throughout the year, throughout your life. What is it that you are engaging yourself in? So they made a thorough analysis first. So these are the things which the mind is interested in. So now they started explaining that experience of self-realization or enlightenment with respect to all these finite experiences. If this is not done, then there will be a big gap between what you are experiencing and whatever the highest state of evolution is. Yes, there is a gap, but there will be no connection at all. So you will not be able to see it as a possibility. That is your transformation as a possibility. So this is the powerful approach, the yogic approach. One of the aspects is to eke out the messages by going deep into these verses, but actually you're not going deep into the verse, you're going deep into yourself. So you're already experiencing the desires, for example, kamaha. Now instead of talking about something else which you have not experienced, now they are going deep into that desire. From where does this desire come? When you're desiring something, what is it that you're seeking? What is the object of desire? So when you penetrate and go deeper and deeper, then they say the kamaha will become ichha. And from where does the ichha shakti come? That comes from a state of peace. And from where does peace come? From the infinite. So from a state of agitations, slowly, by penetrating just into a desire, you can actually reach the state of enlightenment. This is the path, of moving from the known to the unknown. You can never move from unknown to unknown. You will have to start with known factors. And then what do? Just increase the depth. Anything in life can actually make you spiritual, provided you have the depth to penetrate into that experience. You must have heard of many incidents, great saints. They just experienced one or two things, and immediately that transported them into a different frequency. Like if there was a saint who just took a book and he read, and it was written, your goal in life is self-realization. Now when he read that, immediately he became so thrilled and meditative. Obviously in his past births he has done a lot of sadhana, otherwise first time when you read that cannot give you such a deep experience. Similarly, some other saint, they read the Ramayana and they just went into raptures. That put them on the spiritual path. So you must have read things like that. Adi Shankaracharya, when he actually saw a person, a tree falling down and killing someone, now immediately that increased his mumukshatva, the desire to know what is beyond all this. Buddha, 3 experiences he had: disease, old age and death. Each experience put him into different stages of contemplation, quest. So when you hear all this, now you may wonder, why is that not happening to me? How come it happened to that person? Why is it not happening to me? Or rather, what you will ask is, what is the experience which I should seek in order to get into that frequency? Now the answer to that is, it can be any experience from your life. What you require is the depth in perception. Not the nature of experience is not going to drive you inward. It is how deep you analyze. Analyze means, I don't mean intellectual analysis merely. How deeply you penetrate using your intellect, mind, emotions, everything. That is what matters. So week after week, when we are doing that, and you're also just following the flow, without your knowledge, your penetrative ability will keep increasing. So whatever points are inspiring for you, you keep practicing. But they are all relative only. Along with this, what is being done is an exposure is being given to the yogic approach, which is the penetration. So when you start absorbing that energy, slowly you will become penetrative in life. And at some point, it could be just an ordinary experience, like the blooming of a flower, or just a sunrise or a sunset. It could be anything. It could be a birth, it could be a death experience, it could be a so-called ordinary experience of life. But suddenly that will catapult you to a different frequency. It comes only through tapas, sadhana. Tapas means austerities. Austerities means you don't need to imagine, going to a forest and doing the sadhana and all that. See, that is all not required. Wherever you are, you can do your austerities in your own way. That austerities means sadhana. So when you consistently do the sadhana, and when you're getting exposed to this yogic approach, your penetrative ability will go on increasing. That is what a master is trying to do. A master, even though he gives so many points, his focus is not on these points. His focus is on how to make things conducive for a student to get catapulted into that sublime frequency of divine realization, which is, when you take it to the 100% level, that is the experience of Asthita Prajna. So whether you take the word ocean, Samudram, or you take Achala, in the earlier verses we saw many such wonderful sadhana practices. Now he's talking of a kama kami, that is the penetrating the kama, the desire. Now any experience you take, when you apply the yogic approach and go deeper and deeper and deeper into it, where you will reach is the infinite. So some people have mentioned, I'm finding it very difficult to relate to a Sthita Prajna. That is, to even conceive that I am a Sthita Prajna seems to be so difficult. That is why I'm saying draw a line and put a Kama Kami in the left and Sthita Prajna in the right. They are a part of the same system only. It is an evolution. So you can definitely identify with a Kama Kami because you are already experiencing Kamaha, desires. Now when you refine those desires and when you go deeper and deeper, when you develop more depth, you will start becoming a Sthita Prajna. So a Kama Kami is one who is a slave to his or her own desires. And when you are a slave to your own desires, you will definitely be a slave to the objects of desires also. I told you, Kama, Kami, the word Kamaha means desire. It also means object of desire. So one way to understand this Kama, Kami means the first Kama is object of desire. And Kami means the desirer, the person who is desiring. So one who desires the objects. This is one way to understand this. But there is also the other aspect which is which makes it very interesting. I did say earlier that is not applicable here, and because I didn't want to give too many things and and make it very difficult for you to focus. But now that you have understood the first aspect, the second aspect also you should try and grasp. That is, Kamaha means desire and Kami means one who is a desirer of desires. Desirer of desires means one who is a slave to the desire. So from where is the Kamaha coming? The desire. From a state of incompleteness. When you feel incomplete from within, then automatically a desire is generated. You don't put any effort consciously to generate a desire. The desire springs forth automatically. So when that happens, they are calling it as Kamaha. Since it is an automatic process, once the Kamaha is formed, now that will just pull you. You will have no choice in that matter. And the desire will always be directed towards procuring some object. So it will keep pulling you, pulling you in the sense of actually the desire is inside. So it will be pushing you to pursue that object, and you will not have the time. You will neither have the time nor the inclination to even question as to what is happening. Why should I get that object? What is my real purpose? You will not have the time to ask all these questions. Why? Because you will be so busy fulfilling that Kamaha, that desire. So in your entire life, you are riddled with so many desires which are not under your control, and you are so busy tossed about from one experience to another in order to fulfill these various desires that you hardly get time to just pause and think, what am I doing in life? You are at the mercy of your own desires. So this is Kamaha. So you become a slave to your desires, number one. And once you become a slave to your desires, when the desire is fulfilled, you will become a slave to the objects of the desires also. So today, find out, what do we mean by being a slave to the objects of desire? Slave means you will have no freedom, no independence. So today your happiness is dependent upon various factors in the world, the various objects. If that object is taken away, then your happiness goes away. Your peace of mind goes away. And what you need to understand is the nature of the world is that every aspect of the world is temporary, impermanent. As elsewhere, it is said by these great masters, anitya. Anitya means ephemeral. Every experience has a beginning and it also has an end. So when you are dependent on an object for your happiness, then you will be miserable, because deep within you, you know that you will lose it at some point of time. So that is going to cause a lot of fear, a lot of insecurity. And not only that, when that point of loss comes, then it will make you very much sorrowful. You will break down. See, everybody has a breaking point. It is a question of where your attachments are lying. Some people are very attached to money. So when money goes away, they break down. Some people are very attached to name and fame. Means they have developed intense desire, kamaha, towards name and fame, which has in turn made them extremely attached and dependent. So if they lose money, they will not break down. But if they lose their name, they will even commit suicide. I know some people, it's a very big thing for them. Good name, they say. Then some people are attached to power. So if the power goes away, they'll break down. So this is at the final stage. But even when they are having the object of desire, are they peaceful? Are they happy? It is only for a short temporary period that they experience that happiness. When the desire is fulfilled, immediately you feel a sense of relief. But before you can even experience that happiness, the insecurity sets in. When a person gets a lot of name, he or she also feels so much insecure. It is not about the 99 people who are praising that person which will matter to the mind. It is about the fear or the stress about the one person who will be criticizing that person, which will start occupying the mind if you are not careful. That is why we are saying don't be a kamakami. They are not saying drop your desires. They are only saying convert your desire from a kamaha into ichcha. Please understand this very clearly. If we just in a generalized way use the word desire for everything and leave it at that, then you will totally misunderstand this philosophy. And that is what has happened. Why is it that youngsters are not taking up to this ancient wisdom? Because they have been told that this ancient wisdom says, be desireless. But what is meant is, don't be a slave to your desires. Don't have kamaha. Kamaha itself implies slavishness. So you may acquire a lot of wealth, but if it is coming from kamaha, then the wealth, instead of making you more happy and peaceful, it will cause more insecurity. It will cause more agitations. See, even though we are studying so many facets of a Sthita Prajna, the central facet is Shanti. In the conclusive verses, in this verse, in the next verse, the last few verses, he is focusing on that word Shanti. Because that is the center of a Sthita Prajna. So all the other facets which we are studying are related to Shanti, the state of peace. If anything is going to make you more peaceful in the long run, then that will take you closer to becoming a Sthita Prajna. If anything is going to increase your agitations in the long run, then that will take you closer to the state of a Kamakami. Kamakami means one who is a highly agitated and stressed person. So on one hand you have stress, on the other hand you have total peace. Now you are somewhere in between. You may be at the 10% level, 15% level, 20% level in that scale. Now you need to put in efforts and start moving towards that state of shanti, peace. This is the way. Converting the kamaha into ichha. Ichha, in contrast, means a willful desire. Out of choice, consciously, you generate a desire, but you're already very peaceful. You're established in the state of peace. Whenever a desire arises on its own from a state of incompleteness, that is called kamaha. When you willfully generate a thought flow for functionality purposes, you may decide that, yes, I require a car, or I require a house, or I require a family, whatever it is, for these purposes. Now, when you decide that consciously, but even without that you are in a state of peace, you are not feeling a lacuna, but for functionality purpose you generate a thought flow, a desire, that is called ichha. Ichha makes you so powerful. It helps you to materialize your goals, whereas kamaha actually reduces your power. So when these masters said you should have a lot of passion, they didn't mean kamaha, they meant again ichha shakti. You should consciously develop a lot of passion towards anything which you do in life. And here passion means ichha shakti, something which something which is under your control. You are not a slave to your desire. Rather, you are a master of your desire. And when you are a master of your desire, when your desire is fulfilled, when the object of desire comes to you, you will not be dependent on that object for your happiness. You will experience that object, but you will never get attached. Attachment means being completely dependent on that object. So, when you are in that matured state, what will happen is that before you fulfill your peaceful, now during the process of the fulfillment of the desire also you will be very calm and peaceful. You will not get worked up. Some people, the moment they start acting, they get so worked up. Why? Because of kamaha. In the third chapter, he'll be covering this in detail. See, all these aspects which are being given to you through the yogic approach, they are all going to help you so much in understanding the deeper imports of chapter 3, which is the Karma Yoga. He calls it Vigata Jvaraha, means the fever of doing, he says. Jvaraha means fever. So Vigata Jvaraha, without the fever of doing, you should do things. Without the fever of acting, you should act, he says. So what causes that stress? Why do you get worked up about things? It is because of being a slave to your own desires. Your own mind is not under your control. So to the extent your mind is not under your control, you are a kamakami. To the extent your mind is under your influence or control, you are a sthita prajna. So this makes it very, very practical for you. It becomes a sadhana, a path for you to practice. You can progress in this path of inner transformation. So this is the difference between kamaha and ichha. So you have kamaha on one hand and ichha on the other hand. So when you're caught up with kamaha, you're a kamakami. Now when you convert all your desires into ichha, then you're a sthita prajna. You're above all the desires. Now it is interesting, right now he is comparing the sthita prajna to a kamakami and drawing the parallel, in the next verse, he will be giving you further subtle tips how to actually convert the kamaha into ichcha. All those things we'll be seeing in the coming verse. That is why I'm spending a lot of time in this verse with these deeper messages. Otherwise, without this, to straight away go to the next verse is a waste of time, because it will be a further development of this. So whenever you have kamaha, it will develop a lot of force on its own. That is how your slavishness will go on increasing. So when it develops a lot of force called vega means force, speed. Now what will happen is, the kamaha will become what the masters call as trishna. So you can learn these terminologies. They will be very useful for you to understand these sadhana aspects in depth. Because the more you understand and absorb, you will automatically start practicing it. So when the kamaha goes completely out of control, it becomes trishna. The word is trishna. Trishna means intense craving for something. So when your desire is not under your control, it will quickly become craving. And when you are in a state of craving, you can never be happy. You can never, first of all, choose things. See, only when you're able to choose things, you will be in a state of peace. You know, there is a famous statement, no, beggars can never be choosers. So when a person is caught up with kama, he is literally started the process of begging for happiness from the world. And it will develop into trishna, it will develop a lot of force, and the desire will go completely out of your control. Now when that stage comes, when the craving stage, trishna stage comes, now that person becomes a full-fledged beggar. Everything in life, that is everything from the world, any small thing can throw that person off balance. The slightest of something goes wrong outside in a slightest way, that can immediately cause a tremendous ripple, a tremendous disturbance in that person's mind. So that is the way you can find out. See, if you are all the time disturbed by something or other in life, it could be the weather, it could be another person's behavior, it could be the food, it could be your present situation. If it causes a lot of disturbance in your mind, it means you are in a state of trishna, craving. So it is the scale of peace or stress. That is the yardstick to measure your own progress. So if you can fix these three stages, it becomes very, very simple. The lowest stage is trishna. Kama is in the middle. So if you have kamaha, it will deteriorate. You will get into a state of trishna, craving. And when you start intensely craving for something, you go about, in life, searching for peace, searching for something which will quench your thirst. But any amount of water you drink, that will never quench that thirst. Because the very nature of craving is to keep on increasing in intensity, that is in quantity and quality. That is why they compare the kamaha to fire. If you take fire, a fire is insatiable. You put a small piece of paper in the fire. Now it will consume it. Now it will ask for more. Is it happy? Is it satisfied? No. Now you put more papers into it. It will consume all that. It will ask for more. You put a big house in the fire. Now the fire will consume the entire house. It will ask for more. Left to itself, it can consume the entire earth and it will still not be satisfied. That is the nature of fire. That is the nature of kamaha, uncontrolled desire. So kamaha is like fire, it is insatiable. The more you fulfill your desire, the more unhappy you will become. You know, there was an article written by a multi-billionaire. I read this article a few years back. He has put a question to to everyone. That is, he has given his point in the form of question. He has said, in my life, I started from scratch and I was like trying to make a lot of money, and slowly I became very successful in my business. Today I have many houses, I have limousines, everything is there. But if you really ask me, am I in a state of satisfaction or peace, the answer is no. And he says, I wonder why. These are the things which I wanted so badly. He had used the word wanted so badly. In Sanskrit language, that means trishna, craving. So when you have intense craving, when you fulfill that craving, when you get all the objects of the desire, instead of becoming peaceful, that will only make you more agitated, more insecure. So kamaha is there. If you don't do anything about it, that will become a trishna. Now above the kamaha is ichha shakti, your capacity to generate thoughts at will and also withdraw thoughts at will. See, when you're caught up with trishna, craving, now as I told you last week, you will not be able to sleep peacefully. All the time your mind is going to be preoccupied with the object of the desire. Whereas when you have ichha, when it's time to sleep, you will sleep peacefully. When it's time to eat, you will eat peacefully. See, you will experience life in totality without getting perturbed or disturbed. And when it is time to act to fulfill that desire, you will do that also in a calm and composed way. Calmness, peace, that is the hallmark of a spiritual person. You know, some people, they claim spiritual status and they start giving lectures on spirituality. But the way they talk itself is very full of agitations. Someone had showed me a video clip of a person talking about the peace of mind, and you should look at his face. His face was so tense, and he's saying you should maintain the peace of a saint, and something he was saying. It was extremely amusing to watch that. So it is not talking about peace or a mastery over the language or mastery over the external mastery over the scriptures, all those things. It is how peaceful are you internally. That is the final yardstick. That is the ultimate yardstick. So when you go to a master, you will find that he'll be radiating that energy of peace and happiness all the time. So the moment you come in contact with a master, immediately your mind will also become very peaceful and calm. So this is the difference between a kama kami and a sthita prajna. A sthita prajna is one who is established sthita prajna in prajna. So what is the key aspect of prajna? Is a shantihi. So one who is established in peace is sthita prajna, this context. And one who is established in stress or agitations is a kama kami. So there are 2-3 important things which you need to note. Number one, they are not saying remove all your desires, because in the name of spirituality, they misunderstand spirituality and they try to force themselves to lead a life where a dry life without enjoying anything. Now that will only cause suppression. In spirituality, suppression is never ever encouraged. But at the same time, you should not become a let loose also. Kamaha should not become a trishna. So here he is asking you to fulfill your desires, nothing wrong, but fulfill them like a master. It is an art which you need to slowly develop through sadhana. It cannot come overnight. Now you may ask me, sir, till I become a master, what should you do? That you are anyway you're functioning in life, you will be stressed only. That is fine. But now that you are absorbing this wisdom, slowly you will have to master this art of moving from a kama kami to a sthita prajna. You are established in agitations today, you will have to slowly get established in peace. It will happen in stages. Don't expect immediate results. Now, having understood the principle of kama kami a little bit, we will now see the other line, that is the first 3 lines. It is very interesting. As the ocean remains unmoved when it is filled with water from all quarters, so does one obtain peace in whom the objects of desire enter. He says, Kamaha yam pravishanti. This is a very powerful principle he is giving. So, that part I didn't explain earlier, because without the kama kami, without absorbing the message of kama kami, it is impossible to understand that. So he is differentiating between kama kami and a sthita prajna. A kama kami, that is one who is a slave to his own desires, his mind will constantly be seeking objects. He is never in a state of peace. He is seeking the objects of desires. Whereas for a sthita prajna, he or she does not seek objects. The objects seek that person. It's a beautiful phrase, when he says, in whom the objects of desire enter. This is this is a facet of materialization, the science of materialization. See, these great yogis, they have given many sciences, like the science of health, which is the kaya tattva. Then you have the science of happiness, the purnatvam, it is the science of completeness or happiness. Then you have the science of relationships. Then you have the science of success. Everything they have given principles pertaining to that area of your life, and also how to do it as a sadhana and grow spiritually with that. Then one aspect is a science of spirituality. You have the science of creativity. So many aspects, 12 aspects actually. They have divided your life into 12 aspects. And the ancient wisdom deals comprehensively with all these aspects. We are in the process of revealing all these sciences one by one. Like the Kaya Tattva, to a good extent, has been revealed. So you can do that 22-day course and absorb the deeper messages, the signs pertaining to health. The Prana Tattva is no doubt will make you healthy, and it will help in all the aspects of the world. But the primary focus from Prana Tattva is spiritual development. So you cannot confine the Prana Tattva to health alone. It gives you success, everything, and it also completely makes you subtle and gets you more close to the infinite. It lifts your consciousness up. So similarly, there is one science called the science of materialization. It's a very powerful science. How do you create things in life? How do you materialize? How do you manifest your goals? Now a yogi has that capacity. Again, it's not 0 or 100. Everybody has that capacity to a certain extent, but it will, Sthita Prajna has mastered that science of materialization. So in one of the Upanishads, it has been mentioned, whatever a person of a pure mind desires, he or she will get it. But there, desire means ichha. See, sometimes the word kamaha may also be used, but there will be other things also mentioned, and when you put all those together, you will find that what they are referring to is ichha. Actually, one of the names of Lord Shiva is Kameshwara, means Ishvara, Lord of Kamaha. Goddess Kameshwari, in the Shakti Sadhana, they talk of the union of Kameshwara and Kameshwari, the union of the male energy and the female energy in its purest form. So the moment you say Kamaha, it is uncontrolled desire. Kameshwara, Kama Ishvara means one who is a master of desire, one who is sitting on top of the desires. Kameshwari means one who is again a master of the desires. These are all very powerful principles which they have given. So, when you are in the state of Trishna, which comes from Kamaha, that is your craving and you're a slave, now your choices become very limited. You're so highly agitated, stressed. You are no longer a creator. You lose that capacity to materialize your goals, to materialize your own thoughts. Now you may ask me, why sir? Why should I lose my? It is actually a blessing, because when your mind is not under your control, and if you have the power of materialization, now every negative thought which comes in your mind, if it starts materializing, imagine what will be your state. In a fit of anger, you may curse somebody. Sometimes you curse yourself also. I wish I were dead. Some people make such statements, when I was very young, I remember seeing a movie in which a person gets a power where if he does like this, if he looks at someone and does like this, now that the other person will just freeze, no movement at all. Now he will keep on doing it with others, and accidentally one day, when he's in front of a mirror, he will do like this, and then he will also freeze. So the power of materialization can be revealed only to a person who has purified the mind. Otherwise, that can cause havoc. I'm going to give you some principles because he has mentioned it here. But the actual power of materialization, the science of materialization, where we will do it as a separate empowerment course in the future. To the extent you are purified, there are levels of materialization. Slowly it can be revealed. Actually, even in the Prana Tattva level 1, a little bit of these powers of materialization will be awakened within you to the extent where you can handle it when you learn the aura expansion techniques and all that, which we are going to which we have already started yesterday about the aura and all that. Now in the next 3 days, the last part of the Prana Tattva level 1, that is going to be intensified. You will find that your materialization powers will increase. But I have kept it towards the end of the course. I didn't take it in the beginning. Why? Because the first portion is purification. Unless we thoroughly purify, these principles, these empowerments cannot be given just like that. That can cause havoc. So what is the principle of materialization he's talking about? See, everything in the world is nothing but energy, vibrations. This is what Albert Einstein also said, E equals mc squared. That is, whatever we perceive as mass is actually nothing but energy when you go deep inside into the subatomic level. Now, the moment we talk of energy, the vibrations, then there is a frequency of vibrations. So, whenever your vibrations are low, then your consciousness is also low. You will be agitated. When you increase your vibrations, then you will start becoming more spiritual. You will start becoming more peaceful. Now, when you are a kamakami, when you are a slave to your own desires, now there is the object of desire. You are hoping that will give you peace. Now you are standing here and you are in a state of craving. You are a complete slave to your own desires. Now you are vibrating at a lesser frequency than the object. The object is vibrating in the frequency of happiness because you are thinking that's going to give you happiness. So as it were, it is in the frequency of happiness, whereas you are vibrating in the frequency of stress and agitations. Therefore, however much you try, the object will get repelled because like attracts like. The more you go towards the object will move away from you because the frequency is not matching. So that is why the stress increases. See, the pursuit of a desire, that is when you try to fulfill a desire, the very process is so stressful today because you are vibrating at a lesser frequency than what you are seeking. So in order to compensate for that gap, you need to double up or triple up your efforts. You need to, you become more worked up and all that. Finally, somehow or other you manage to get the object, but you are unable to enjoy it. That only causes more insecurity. This is what happens when you are in a state of craving. Whereas Ichha Shakti, that is when you have awakened the Ichha Shakti within you, this is what a Sthita Prajna has done. When he fulfills the desires, he is not in a state of craving. So he is already in a state of infinite peace. See, if you remember, when we did the Samudram initially, Samudram, that is the ocean versus the rivers entering the ocean, I had mentioned 2 points to you. Now those 2 points are going to be very useful to understand this dimension. What were the 2 points? The first point was the Sthita Prajna is in a state of Paripurna, in a state of total fulfillment. You remember that. So the ocean is in a state of Paripurna with respect to the rivers, number 1. Number 2, the ocean is infinite whereas the rivers are finite relatively. So the Sthita Prajna is experiencing infinite happiness, whereas the objects of the world give you happiness, no doubt, but they only give finite happiness. So he is vibrating at a much higher frequency, at the infinite frequency, when compared to those objects. They are only vibrating at the frequency of finite happiness, whereas a Sthita Prajna is vibrating in a state of infinite happiness. So he doesn't need to seek the objects. The objects will seek him. See, this is at the mental level. Don't literally take it at the physical level. Some people take the science of materialization at the physical level and they stop putting in efforts. We are talking about what is happening at the mental level. Externally, if you want to fulfill a desire, of course you need to do the karma, you need to put in the efforts, whatever is required. But at the internal level, are you seeking the objects or are the objects seeking you? Or in other words, are you making the objects come to you? Are you attracting the objects? That is the question. Objects means your objects of your desire, whatever it is that you have fixed as a goal for yourself. So a Sthita Prajna is in a state of paripurna, purnatvam. So when you are in a state of purnatvam, purnatvam means completeness, you are vibrating at the infinite frequency. And when you are vibrating at the infinite frequency, now the entire world is at your feet. Every object is at your beck and call. That's what he means in the Upanishads. Whatever a person with a pure mind desires, if he chooses to generate a thought flow is a desire. Now that desire will get fructified. The materialization process happens for such a person. Whereas when you are a kamakami, not the desirer of object, when you are running behind the objects, when you are running behind the objects doesn't mean merely the effort, it means you are looking up to the object for peace or happiness, then you are a slave. For such people, the materialization will become more and more difficult. Goal manifestation becomes very difficult. This is the principle which when you master, you can become extremely successful in life. In the next Yoga Sankirtan, which is going to come out, I don't know when, but the inspiration is on and the frequencies, the vibrations have been decoded. Now next comes the most difficult part, which is putting it in a easy digestible form for you to do sadhana. Now that is on Lord Ganesha. Lord Ganesha, if you read the scriptures, Lord Ganesha is a person who is a Mangala Murti. Mangala Murti means the most auspicious person. Wherever Lord Ganesha is there, everything settles down. He is in a state of paripurna, purnatvam. That is why, you will always, the moment we say Ganesha, when you read those stories and when you relate to the various aspects of Lord Ganesha, that gets you into a state of fulfillment. And incidentally, Lord Ganesha represents the energy of success. They say that energy completely breaks all the obstacles. So only when you are in a state of paripurna or purnatvam, when you are in a state of completeness, you get that capacity to pulverize all the obstacles and gain success in life. So that Yoga Sankirtan CD is going to be focused on awakening the energy of Lord Ganesha within you. As I told you, Ganesha has a form. Now everybody relates only to the form, but the energy aspect is what you should learn to relate to, which a yogi does. Now when you relate to the energy aspect of the gods, then that causes a lot of purification. within you that causes a lot of upliftment. So there are many Shaktis involved. One of the Shaktis is Ichha Shakti. But then there are other forces also involved. When all those Shaktis are awakened within you, you will be able to focus on any goal and you will be able to achieve that. So that to awaken those energies, special sadhanas have been given by our masters. So in a very easy digestible form, you will be getting it as in the Yoga Sankirtan format. Then it becomes very easy for you to practice the sadhana every day and awaken these energies. Actually, you don't need to do anything. You just surrender and do the sadhana. These energies will start getting awakened within you. So this is the power of materialization. Now, as I told you, it looks so attractive. Please don't send me mails asking, sir, when are you going to take the empowerment on materialization? Because you don't know what you're asking for. When your own mind is not under your control, if these powers are awakened within you, now you will create havoc to others. You will also create havoc in your own life. See, they say that a yogi entertains, these yogis have found out that an average person entertains around 64,000 thoughts in a day. Now you're not aware of that also, because most of the thoughts are happening on their own. That is the Kamaha stage. 64,000 thoughts are generated every day within you. Can you imagine? Now if every thought starts getting materialized, now you will go mad. You lose all your peace. That is why these sciences have been kept a secret. So in the coming year, I will definitely first I want to expound the science of Purnatvam. How do you become complete? Because that is the base. Only when you master that, hopefully before that or during that time or around that time, the next Yoga Sankirtan CD also will come. So you should do your sadhana first, purify yourself and get into the state of completeness. So the law of life is that attach you lose, detach you gain. That is the law which he is referring to. So Sthita Prajna is in a state of completeness. See, when you use the word detachment, it looks negative, but it's not negative. Detachment means a state of completeness, infinite happiness and peace. Attachment means a state of kamakami, being a slave to the desires and being a slave to the world. So when you are in a state of completeness, you will gain everything. When you are in a state of trishna, craving and attachment, when your own mind is not under your control, you will find that you will not be able to fulfill your goals so easily. So some people ask me, sir, how is it that when we attend the Sunday lectures, then when we do the Yoga Sankirtan sadhana, many of my desires are getting fulfilled. How is that possible, sir? What is the connection? The connection is this only. Through this sadhana, when you attend every Sunday, you're absorbing the higher healing Shakti. When you do the Yoga Sankirtan sadhana every day, you're raising the level of your consciousness. So you are unconsciously getting into a state of relative completeness. So when that starts happening, your vibrations increase. When your vibrations become higher than the objects of your desire, automatically the desires get fulfilled. Provided you are not lazy. See, this science of materialization is not for lazy people. You should be willing to put in the required effort. So, attach you lose, detach, that is when you are in a state of completeness, you gain everything. So such a person, obtains peace, he says. Because ultimately, whether you fulfill your desire and get objects from outside, or whether go within and try to evolve spiritually, either way, your goal is only peace. So he is directly getting into the root of it, and he says such a person is in a state of peace. Not a kama kami, not the one who is a slave to the objects of desire. So this has been so beautifully depicted in our Puranas. Lord Vishnu is in a state of relaxation and bliss. He is lying on a snake bed, This is how they have depicted. And goddess Lakshmi is his partner. And she is, giving him a massage. She is pressing his feet. Now, this should be understood correctly. Both Vishnu and Lakshmi are equals. Where is actually Lakshmi's abode? It is in his heart. That has also been mentioned. Now, this is very, very beautifully depicted, because goddess Lakshmi symbolizes wealth, abundance. Goddess Lakshmi is the goddess of wealth. Goddess of wealth means she is wealth. She is the energy of wealth, abundance. Now, Lord Vishnu is the energy of maintenance, relaxation. See, when you're balance, everything is relaxed and balanced. That is the very energy of Vishnu. Now, when you are completely relaxed in a state of Purnatvam, wealth will automatically be there. Where there is Vishnu, Lakshmi will be there. If you directly try to get Lakshmi, that is, if you directly try to get wealth, being a kama kami, you may get wealth, but you will not get the peace. That is what he's saying, not the desirer of objects. The desirer of objects will first find it very hard to get the objects of desire, but somehow if he manages to fulfill the desires, that is not going to give him the desired peace. It will only make him more agitated. So it is a magnificent path which he is giving you here, moving from the state of kama to ichcha. From being a kama kami, he is urging you to become a sthita prajna. Choice is yours. Are you going to pursue the path of devolution, become more of a kama kami, or are you going to do your sadhana and become a sthita prajna, which alone will give you worldly success? All the objects, you will become like a magnet. You will be able to attract whatever you want, and at the same time you will also attain infinite peace. The prana tattva level 1, the personal magnetism is going to be awakened in the 4th part at the prana vayu sharira level. That itself will help you materialize your goals very much. That is why I am asking you to write down your goals very clearly. Okay, so we'll stop with that. I've given you very, very deep messages today. So absorb all these points. Just reflect on them and absorb the energy. Next week we'll continue further and we'll go to the next verse, which will be a continuation of this. How do you need to function in the world in such a way that you don't lose your peace of mind, you don't lose your happiness. This is when you're all alone by yourself, how to be happy. Now in the next verse, when you're contacting the world, when you're moving with people, when you're working, when you're doing so many things, how to remain blissful, how to remain happy, how to remain peaceful. So many sadhana tips are there. We'll see that from next week. So before the meditation, I will just take up 1 or 2 questions which have come. This question has been posted by Pradeep Sahuji in the YouTube section. So, Namaste Guruji. I am a listener and practitioner of your Sunday discourses regularly since March 2020 with increased degree of anxiousness. The current session of discourse on karma and iccha developed a question in my mind that if my increased anxiousness listening to your discourses each session is my iccha or karma, because that agitates my mind if I miss a session until I watch the recorded one. So please clarify. It's a very interesting question which Pradeep ji has asked. Now, see, when we talk of iccha and karma, they are no doubt applicable with respect to worldly pursuits and the spiritual sadhana also. But what the yogis recommend is, when you first practice this, don't practice it with respect to spiritual sadhana. First practice it at the worldly level. Because, see, you are saying increased anxiousness. That is in a way positive only. Because you are anxious about doing something positive. You are anxious about listening to these discourses. You are anxious about gaining this wisdom. But as you get exposed to this wisdom, as you get connected to the master and you are absorbing this energy, that anxiousness is bound to go away, because this is the very antidote to anxiousness. Now, if you bring in the concept of iccha and karma here, and if you analyze and say, is this iccha or karma? Okay, let me wait till I convert karma to iccha, then I will gain this wisdom. You will never be able to gain this wisdom, because you require this wisdom in order to convert your karma into iccha. It is like a catch-22 situation. So, what our yogis say is that, see, you are in a state of karma only. And if you have the karma, the desire or craving to do sadhana, to gain this ancient wisdom, they say that is better than other desires. Because this desire, no doubt it is a desire, but it will help you to purify yourself. See, you get attached to so many people, you get attached to so many objects. Now those kinds of attachments will get you more and more away from peace. But let us say you get attached to this wisdom, you get attached to the guru. If it's a true guru, now he will not allow you to get attached beyond a point. He'll be watching very closely. Even if you are not in touch with him physically, energy-wise, if you are connected, the Guru Shakti will guide you. The very attachment will help you to get closer, will give you access to the Guru Shakti and the ancient wisdom, and the Guru Shakti in return will remove all the attachments and make you a complete person. So when it comes to spiritual things, my request is, don't analyze. If you have a desire, even if it is karma, if you have a desire to become one with the infinite, to realize the self, consider that as a great blessing. Imagine, out of millions and billions of people, a handful, few hundreds probably, a few thousands, I don't know how many people are watching this. Because when the depth increases, the quantity will reduce. Actually, in the Himalayas, more than one is considered a very high number when it comes to yogic approach. So even if a few hundred people are watching this consistently, I'm talking of consistently watching, not casually watching. See, if it is entertainment stuff, you will find lakhs and lakhs of people watching it. But when it becomes more and more deep, the quantity will automatically reduce. Now this is the deepest, the subtlest concept, the subtlest principles which are being given to you. So naturally, not everybody will be able to do this consistently. But if you are able to do that, even though that is coming out of kama, it does not matter. Consider it as a blessing. This point is given in the Srimad Bhagavatam. When the desire, when the kama, he uses the word kama there, when the kama for realizing God arises within you, consider yourself as a blessed one, he says. And don't worry, the kama will become ichha, because the very ancient wisdom deals with that only. A true master teaches that only. A master will never allow a student to get attached mentally. If the moment he finds a student is getting attached, he will use various methods to slowly make the student independent. A fake master may encourage the student to be more and more slavish, but a true master will never allow that. Initially it may look as if he is allowing that, but without your knowledge, he will be making you independent. So when it comes to these Sunday discourses, when it comes to your personal sadhana, Yoga Sankirtan sadhana, similarly the empowerment courses, don't say, let me develop Ichha, I am waiting for the Ichha Shakti to come, then I will register for the empowerment courses. Let me develop Ichha, then I will do the Yoga Sankirtan sadhana. Don't say that. Then if you say that, and if you delay unnecessarily, now your mind will become a slave to various other things in life. So supposing a thorn gets into your system, let us say by mistake you touch a thorn and that goes inside your finger. Now in order to remove the thorn, another thorn is used. You open up the skin a bit, some other sharp object like a needle or thorn is only used to remove the thorn which has entered inside. Similarly, to completely purify yourself of the various kamaha, another desire is only used. That is what is called as mumukshatva. So initially your mumukshatva may not be under your control. It doesn't matter. It will help you to purify yourself in the long run. So you're putting it in a negative way, you're saying anxiousness. Now put it in a positive sense. So instead of being anxious about alcohol or name or fame or so many other things, you're anxious about the higher wisdom. That is a blessing from a relative level. And as you gain this wisdom, all that anxiousness will start going away. Year by year, you will start settling down. You will become a more mature, more calm person. As your materialization powers increase, you will be able to fulfill all your goals. You will be able to complete all your experiences. Financially also you will grow. Relationships will become better. In every aspect, you will start experiencing life in a calm way. And even spiritually, whether attending these lectures or doing your sadhana, that will slowly get refined. So if you think that I need to do the sadhana, whether it's listening to these lectures or Yoga Sankirtan, any sadhana or empowerment, in 100% perfect way, right from word go, that is not possible. There will be imperfections. That is why you're listening to these lectures. If you're already in a state of Sita Prajna, 100% Ichha, now you don't require all this. Okay, so this is a very nice question. It will be useful to all others also. So now we'll do the meditation. Gently close your eyes. breathe in a deep way. With every breath, I am becoming more and more relaxed. I am going deep into myself. I exercise my power of choice and I choose to move from a state of kama kami to a state of sthita prajna. I am like the ocean, Samudram. I am in a state of completeness, Purnatvam. I am in a state of infinite peace and happiness. Offer your gratitude to God Supreme. Offer your gratitude to your Guru and all the holy masters. Slowly come back. Wriggle your fingers, your toes. Rub your palms together to create a warmth. Cup your eyes with your palms. Gently rub your eyes, cheeks, forehead, top of the head, back of the head and neck. Slowly open your eyes. Welcome back. So today we had a very deep session. The ultimate goal which the ancient wisdom places before you is to move from a kama kami to a sthita prajna. From a slave, you need to gain mastery over your own mind and the world. You should get to a state where you're not dependent on anything outside for your happiness. It happens in stages through sadhana. Be very humble and keep doing your sadhana. All these experiences will come in stages. Now, there have been a lot of questions which I have been receiving related to the Prana Tattva Level 1 Empowerment. I will be answering all those questions in the 22nd session. Once the 21-day that part is over, then the 22nd session, all the questions will be answered. Today, I just want to cover one point about goal fixing. Many questions have come. One person has asked how to fix SMART goals with respect to emotions, emotional relationships. Here, SMART, what he's referring to is a management jargon, your goal should be SMART. Like SMART means S is for specific, M means measurable. Like this, they have various words at your, which are assigned to that. Now, the yogic way is not getting into that kind of analysis. Rather, you should become like a child. You see, when a child wants something, the child is not analyzing very big and, SMART goals, this, that and all. You keep it for your, as a showpiece, for your corporate presentations. But when it comes to goal manifestation, a yogic approach, be very, very simple. It is not about what you write, but what you are able to visualize. So when it comes to emotional relationships, you cannot fix such quantities. So in an emotional relationship, it is about happiness, it is about love, exchange of love. You give love and you receive love. You give happiness to the other person and the other person gives happiness to you. So these things you should visualize. See, you should know where to use what. This is very important. Number one. Another girl has sent this question. I'm not mentioning the name for obvious reasons. It is a personal question. She has said that, if I want to visualize a partner, a life partner in my life, do I visualize a specific person whom I like, or do I visualize in general I get a partner? See, when it comes to people, it is better to visualize generally the kind of experience which you want. But if you already have a specific person in mind, now what is advised is that you don't need to use these manifestation techniques, visualization techniques and all that. You get into action. You do whatever things are required externally for the for that goal to manifest. When it comes to visualization, I require a good life partner, in whatever way you want to describe it, visualize it, that you can do. The rest is the karma part, the action part. So all that you don't need to bring here and confuse yourself. And one more thing, a special message to that girl who was asked this. You mentioned so much about soulmate. You say that I strongly believe in a soulmate. Yes, that is true. But you should also remember that you should not lose your practicality. In talking about these things too much, there is always a chance that you may become a dreamer. You will start dreaming too many things. Even in the concept of romance and love, people the youngsters especially, they start taking in what is being portrayed in the movies with music played in the background and some, all that. And so in reality, since they have dreamt so much and they have a picture, the reality never meets up to those expectations. So what I would say is be very simple. Soulmate and all that is there, but let's set aside all those concepts. I want a life partner in my life. Now, you cannot get a 100% perfect person. Now, all those are only unrealistic expectations. So, I require a nice relationship which will make me happy. Visualize what is that happiness and feel that. Now, automatically with this Prana Tattva level 1 empowerment, you will get a partner. Whatever your goal is, that will come to you because your vibrations are being increased. At that time, now it is a choice which you will have, whether you will choose that person or not. And if you bring in and complicate, if you bring in too many concepts like soulmate and this, that, and complicate it, that will only confuse you more whether this person is my soulmate or not. Basically, if you're attracted and if the other person also is responding, now you go ahead and settle down. You want to get married, that's what you've written. Now you should go ahead with that. Thereafter, the small issues and all that in a relationship, it will always be there. And you will get everything in life according to your karmas. And when you're doing the sadhana, you're increasing your punya, you're increasing your good karmas. So no need to hesitate so much, no need to analyze so much. That's why the first day of the Prana Tattva level 1 course itself, I made a request to all the participants, become like a child. Like how a child says, I want an ice cream, I want this. Very, very clear and simple. You approach your goals in a simplified way. Don't overcomplicate things. And don't worry, all your goals, if you approach it this way, in a practical way, in a simple way, they will get manifested due to the grace of the higher. Okay, so we'll stop with that today. We'll continue the next session. Thank you very much. Hari Om.